Our top story here at 5:30 this afternoon.
We will bring it to you just as soon as it does happen.
Truly a once-in-a-lifetime moment.
Mr. Simpson is a fugitive of justice right now.
I was inside the truck. I tried to get it started. We're here in the Channel 4 newsroom. There's no surprise. Learning folks this morning, we've been hit with a major earthquake.
A loud, what felt like an explosion. You could almost feel it right in your heart.
Los Angeles lost an incredible basketball game.
And his legacy will live forever.
Don't touch that dial. It's going to be some night. From all the people at KNBC News.
Well, we are right in front of O.J. Simpson's vehicle, and as I say that, let me assure you that there's no way he knows that this is a television truck. There are people out of their cars on the side of the road that are out waving at him, causing a commotion.
I forget what time it was, but it was earlier than when I was going to wake up. Kenny Bowles, he was the managing editor at KNBC TV, and he said, listen, sorry to wake you, but we've got a situation here. LAPD is investigating the death of O.J. Simpson's wife, found outside her condo. They're trying to track him down, so head that way. I just remember thinking, O.J. Simpson, hadn't thought of him for a while. Okay.
This is Channel 4 News at 5:30.
A very shaken O.J. Simpson, one-time Hall of Fame football star, being led away by police for questioning after his ex-wife and an unidentified man are found murdered at her Brentwood home.
I just remember this being a somewhat an odd situation in that you don't come across many murders like this in this part of town. She was sort of a celebrity based on the fact she was O.J. Simpson's wife.
It's a real media circus this afternoon.
Anything involving a West Side L.A. murderer, O.J. Simpson, yeah, it's going to attract a lot of attention.
O.J., what can you say about this? Back up, please. Get out of the way.
At the time, we didn't appreciate, I don't think, the enormity of this case or its ramifications worldwide. It was a horrible crime scene. You could just tell that there was evidence everywhere in terms of the blood that was shed. You don't often see that in murder cases. You actually had blood still on the walkway. I remember doing a live shot from in front of the condo, and as I'm about to go on, a guy in a sports car pulls up, pops out, he runs over, and he has with him a knife and a plastic bag. And I see him scrape off some blood and stick it in the plastic bag. And he hops back into his sports car and takes off. And I remember thinking, oh my God, what has happened? That's a moment I'll never forget. We actually got the only picture of O.J. in handcuffs. A photographer actually held his camera above the hedge at Rockingham.
How come you handcuffed him?
Police officers had put him in cuffs, and then a commanding officer came back and had them take the cuffs off him. Then he went down to Parker Center, the police department headquarters. He gave a statement, was released.
Police sources, however, saying that L.J. Simpson is indeed a prime suspect in the case, but he is not likely to be arrested today.
June 17th, we all anticipated that O.J. Simpson was going to be arrested for this crime. I mean, the evidence was pointing toward him. He was supposed to surrender. He was supposed to be with Robert Kardashian, and he had, from what we understood, made arrangements through his attorney, Robert Shapiro, to turn himself into the LAPD. It became clear, though, that this was not happening where I was. So we ended up going down to the police department headquarters. Then while we were there, we heard of a commotion at the Bundy address, I remember. We had a helicopter over. I remember being in the lobby of the police department headquarters and looking at some monitors, and there was all sorts of activity at the Bundy address. And I remembered saying, so OJ's down there? And they said, no, OJ's not there. I says, well, why is the crowd there? He said, the crowd's there because your cameras are there. That's all sort of made up.
It appears that there's going to be a further delay in any kind of announcement.
Nobody had any answers. The police department, the LAPD, did not have him in custody. And then there's a news conference in the auditorium of Parker Center.
Mr. Simpson has not appeared.
David Gascon, who is a deputy chief, LAPD, issued that statement. O.J. Simpson is a fugitive from justice.
The Los Angeles Police Department right now is actively searching for Mr. Simpson.
That was shocking. You could hear gasps. Nobody expected this. We just assumed this was all sort of taken care of. As Vin Scully would say, the wheels have come off the wagon.
Mr. Simpson is a fugitive of justice right now.
And then all of a sudden, as one reporter started to mimic Howard Cosell, the juice is on the loose. All of a sudden, O.J. Simpson is somewhere. He's not here. And who knows where he was.
Top story now at 4 o'clock, the very latest on the Simpson investigation.
We started hearing some information that related to his possible whereabouts in Orange County, where Brown family lived, and it was also where Nicole Brown was buried. A photographer for us named Dana Roker, who's been with NBC News for many years, still works here, decided to start heading down in that direction. Now, we had a small van. There were no windows in back. It was almost a utility van. We started to drive south on the freeway, and we punched into the CHP broadcast channel.
315, we have a traffic break northbound I-5, just north of.
And it became clear very quickly, as we locked that in, that they had contacted O.J. Simpson. They had triangulated his cell phone. He had gone apparently to the gravesite of Nicole Brown. O.J. Simpson is in Orange County, and he's on the freeway, and a chase is starting to take place. And then we realized that the pursuit is headed in our direction. He was headed this way. Dana was driving, I was in the passenger seat, and I thought, well, listen, if he's coming this way, there's no reason for us to go to him. Let's get off the freeway, get back on, pull over, change places so that the photographer can sit on the passenger side with a camera. I'll drive, and we'll wait for him.
Oh my God.
I looked into the rearview mirror, and that's a scene I'll never forget. A phalanx of black and white, LAPD, CHP, local police, lights and sirens, and in front of them is this white Ford Bronco. I think, okay, here goes nothing. I pull in front of him. Now this is a little minivan now, without any signage, and we are now in front of O.J. Simpson.
This is our status. We are in front of O.J.'s vehicle.
Just before that happened, two cars collided in front of us, and we almost got hit. Traffic in the opposite lanes had stopped. People had pulled over to the side. Individuals all knew what was taking place. It was being broadcast, television, radio, and all of a sudden it took on this life, the likes of which we'll never see again and never saw it before. At that point, I'm trying to get a hold of the KNBC assignment desk to let them know that's us in the helicopter shot of this pursuit. And I called, and nobody answered. And so then I went on the radio and tried to get someone's attention. And I remember somebody on the assignment desk said, "Yes, Conan, what is it? We're busy." And I said to them, well, listen, I'm in front of O.J. Simpson right now with our van, and we're taking pictures out the rear view mirror, but if you want to, we'll just pull to the side if you're too busy. At which point, the person on the assignment desk said, "No, don't do that."
It is a scene out of the most bizarre fiction.
This was as bizarre a scene as you will ever see on a California freeway, or any freeway. And it's something a screenwriter would have a hard time coming up with.
All right, we've got Conan Nolan on the phone. Conan, can you hear me?
It's a very serious situation here, and I can tell you one that is hard to believe with my own eyes.
I got on the cell phone, and as I was driving, went on the air to talk about what we were seeing, and Dana Roker, in the meantime, was trying to take pictures, through the rear view mirror.
O.J. Simpson is in the center lane of the 91 freeway, which is completely void of automobile traffic with the exception of just a few cars.
I didn't explain to either Paul or Colleen that I was actually driving. Under the vehicular code today, what I did would have been illegal.
Conan, first of all, forgive us. I didn't know you were driving. I thought you were a passenger. Keep your eyes on the road. Don't look back there.
And I was doing that while navigating coverage of a pursuit behind me with cars careening in front of me. So you can see there is a lot to deal with it. Imagine, you're on the freeway, cars have pulled to the side of the road on the freeway. The vehicle behind me is trailed by a dozen police units, lights and sirens, code 3.
It's almost like a motorcade.
And on the opposite lanes, people have pulled to the side and cars have stopped. And on the overpasses, people have lined up, some with signs. That was a moment, the likes of which I'd never seen and didn't think was possible.
Bob, we are witnessing tonight a modern tragedy and drama of Shakespearean proportion being played out live on television.
Not only did NBC News take us, but they put the pursuit on the Jumbotron at the NBA Finals. And there was a period where everything had stopped and people were just watching that.
We are, of course, mindful of the O.J. Simpson situation, and we will apprise you of any new developments.
Again, I can't emphasize enough just how strange that was.
This is AC. I have O.J. in the car. Okay, where are you? I'm coming up the 5 freeway.
We didn't want to pull up right next to him. One of the things that was in my head at the time were the words of Robert Kardashian when he read the letter that O.J. Simpson had written.
Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life, great friends. Please think of the real O.J. and not this lost person.
And the letter sounded like a suicide letter. It was blaming everybody else, and amongst those at the top of the list for his woes were the media.
O.J. Simpson is holding the gun to his own head.
Oh, dear God.
Once I learned that O.J. Simpson had a gun and was in the back seat.
My concern is if we let him pass and he sees a camera.
I had this vision in my head that he would see us with a camera taking his picture, and this would be the moment when he would pull the trigger.
This man is suicidal.
And so we took what pictures we could through the rear view mirror, and of course all you see in those pictures is A.C. Cowlings at the wheel with O.J. in back. And so Cowlings, who was driving, was obviously trying to communicate to the police through his cell phone and through hand gestures that he wasn't trying to evade them. He was just on his way somewhere, and he was not going to be deterred.
You're okay, but you gotta tell the police to just back off. He's still alive, but he got a gun to his head.
At that point, I thought, this is risky for us. It's obviously risky for the police and for A.C. Cowlings and O.J. Simpson. I don't want to become part of the story. At that point, I decided, okay, we will let them pass. It was a matter of not wanting to make the situation any worse than it already was, not becoming part of the story. You didn't want that to happen.
Conan said this, it bears repeating. We will cover this, we will report to you, but we will do everything we can. We will ensure the fact that we are not going to affect the outcome of this in any way.
That was our concern. Chronicle what we can, but don't change the course of history by getting involved in the story. I realized this is it's a cultural moment. And that's what this turned out to be. It involved race, it involved celebrity, it involved wealth, and cross currents of all of those in a way that was profound, and I must say profoundly disturbing in many respects as well. It certainly pulled us apart when it came to guilt or innocence and how we perceive justice. There wasn't anything good that came from this, I'm convinced. There was nothing good that came from this. We continued to follow after they had passed. Of course, there were all sorts of other people that were following them as well. And they made their way to Rockingham. LAPD had put up yellow tape for the media not to go any farther. O.J. Simpson was going to be arrested for this crime. If you didn't know this case was special before this pursuit, you did after it. you realize that this is a case like none other. That should have given us an idea as to what we were going to see in the trial of O.J. Simpson.
Right now we're trying to basically gather some more information, trying to figure out where this has been centered.
Have been big, widespread areas without electricity.
I ask the American people to remember the people of Los Angeles County in their thoughts and prayers today.